Alrighty. Okay, so last day we introduced the words of what a sinusoidal function is, what a periodic function is. We talked about degrees and radians. We talked about amplitude and we talked about period. So we kind of covered those basic ideas, which is like 3/4 of everything to do with sinusoidals. We actually don't have that much left to do with it. I just didn't want to hit you with brand new content the Monday after grad. So we're just taking our time with this. So on page 372, um, these are what we call periodic functions because they have a repeating pattern. So amplitude and period are two different things. Amplitude is half the total height, and period is the length of one pattern. Okay? So for this one, so from 0 to 8, the total height is 8. So half of that, so the amplitude is 4. Okay? The period is the length of one pattern. Now, you can see the pattern in many different ways. For me, the pattern here, I'm going to start it right here and finish it right here. So to me, that is my pattern. So if I take that pattern and move it, see, there's the next pattern. Whoop. There's the next pattern. There's the next pattern. There's the next pattern, right? That's the pattern. Same thing here. If I go back, there's the next pattern. Okay. So my pattern goes from 5 to 15. So the length of that is 10. Okay. Now, if this x-axis had units, so let's say this was seconds, then you would write 10 seconds. You'd write whatever units there are on the x-axis. Okay, so for this one, so from 50 to -50, the total distance there is 100. So if I divide that in half, the amplitude is 50. Now, the other way to do amplitude, and I did show this to you last week, was imagine that halfway line, which in this case is right on the 0. How far up you go or how far down you go is also what we call the amplitude. So you're going up from 0 to 50, you're going down from 0 to 50. One thing I forgot to mention, amplitude is always positive because it's a distance, right? It's how much distance you cover. So this distance covers 50. So this goes from 0 to 50. This also goes from 0 to 50. So the amplitude for both of those bits is positive 50. It's not positive 50 and negative 50. They're both positive 50. Okay. For the period, again, it's whatever pattern you see. So I like to start at 0 wherever possible just because it makes the math a little easier. So for me, I see the pattern as up, across, down, across, back up. To me, that's what I see the pattern as. Because if I take that pattern and now move it, I get to the next pattern, right? So you want to make sure that you're seeing a full cycle length. So how far is it? Well, it went from 0 to 20. So the period is 20. Okay. Okay. So for the next one, so again, if you want to do the total height, so this goes from 17 to -17. So the total height is 34. So if you divide that in half, you get out 17. Or if you see it as the halfway line is 0, the distance from the halfway line up or the distance from the halfway line down, that's also 17. Does it matter which way you go about defining it? No, it's up to you. Some kids really like to use total height or total distance. Some kids like to use the halfway line idea. Doesn't matter. This pattern is very similar to the last one. So again, I'm going to start at 0. So I'm going to go up, down, back. Now, where this is tricky is it didn't give you the ending point. But all periodic functions are symmetrical, meaning however much space it takes for them to do part of the pattern, we can continue that spacing for the rest. So if the first part of the pattern took 15, so if the up took 15, then the down has to take 15. And then the next down has to take 15, and the last up has to take 15. So the period is 60. Okay, so they have to give you some information. So they have to give you the halfway or the quarter way or the three-quarter way. They have to give you something. Okay. Now, anything that looks like this wave pattern is what we call sinusoidal. So these first three, those are periodic, meaning they are a pattern that repeats. When the pattern is a wave, we call it sinusoidal instead of periodic. It's a word. If you call D periodic, I'm not taking a mark off. But the diploma is written in perfect math language, so they will call this image a periodic graph, and they'll call this one a sinusoidal graph. So I just want to make sure that you've seen those two words. Okay. So again, now we talked about this last week. Make sure you're aware of the scale. So this y-axis here, that is 0.8. This is negative 0.8. It's written on the side of the picture. So that means then that the amplitude is 0.8. How far up, how far down, or if you prefer, the total distance is 1.6. Divide it by 2, you get out 0.8. Okay, I don't care which way you do it. And then the pattern starts at 0, goes up, down, back. We need to figure out how far that is. So it told us that the halfway is at 6.28. So then this must be at 12.56. I just went 6.28 plus 6.28, or 6.28 times 2, because halfway is 6.28, so the total distance has to be 12.56. Sorry, that's written kind of small. Huh, that didn't work. There we go. Okay, so the halfway is at 6.28, so the total distance then is 12.56. Okay, so like I said, just like on part C, they gave you the quarter distance. This one gave you the half distance. So on the last diploma, on January's diploma, they had a math matching. So they had 4 pictures with 4 different period numbers. So you had to match graph number 1 to the correct period, or graph number 2 to the correct amplitude. So it was math matching. And so this is a very popular little diploma exam question. Okay. Okay, let's look at number 3. So any question I'm skipping, it's a question that you don't need to know how to do. Okay. So it says for each of the following determine. So there's really only a couple types of questions we can ask with this stuff. We can give you the graph and ask for information, or we can give you the equation and ask for information. So here's the rules. the number in front, the number in front is always the amplitude. So if the amplitude is 5, the amplitude is 1, the amplitude is 0.3, the amplitude is 3/4. Now be careful here. Even though the equation says -3, you record the amplitude as +3. The amplitude must be positive. If you're wondering what the heck that negative is for, what it does is it makes your graph be drawn upside down. You do not have to know that. It's just that's what it does. Okay, and here the amplitude is 5.4. So we typically refer to the number in front as the letter A. That's easy to remember. A for amplitude. Okay. Now, the next number is the number that appears between the word sine and the letter X. If there is no number there, please put a 1 in. So this is referred to as the B value. So here it would be -1. Here is 1. Here is 0.5. Now, I mentioned this the other day, that the B value, I'll put it right here. B is not the period. So we have to calculate the period. There is a formula on your formula sheet, and it says period equals 2 pi over B. Now, I need you to not worry about where that formula comes from. I don't even need you to memorize it. I just need you to remember to use it because it's on your formula sheet. So the period for this one is 2 pi over 1. You would punch that into your calculator and get out 6.28. Here, the period is 2 pi over 6. We're going to punch that into our calculator. Ooh, what did I just do? Okay, hold on. So 2 pi divided by 6. So usually we do 2 decimal places. So 1.05. Hold on. Okay. So here, the period is 2 pi over 2. So that would be 3.14. Period would be 2 pi over 0.5. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So that's 12.57. And here would be 2 pi over 1, which is 6.28. We're not going to worry about F. You're never going to be given a negative B value, so we'll just ignore that. So what does that mean? Okay, so let's pick out, oh, I don't know. Let's pick out C. Okay, and hopefully you have a little bit of room on your page. But let's just do C. So draw in a grid like that. And what I want you to do is I want you to draw in your sine wave. So your sine wave starts at 0, 0. It goes up, down, up. And we're going to have it finishing right there. Now, technically, it doesn't finish. Technically, that wave continues forever on the left side and forever on the right side, forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so our amplitude is 0.3. So that means we're going to go up 0.3 and down 0.3. That's what the A value does. The period is the length of one cycle. So one cycle has a length of 3.14. So it starts at 0 and finishes at 3.14. That's the period. So the reason why we're focusing on this is we are eventually going to get into graphing calculators. This is your Y min, Y max, X min, X max. So if you don't know how the numbers in the question monkey with the actual way the question's drawn, you're going to have all kinds of funky window settings and your screen won't look the way we need it to. Okay, so the period is the length of one repeating pattern. That's what period is. It's the length of the pattern. And your pattern is always going to be this wave. Okay. Oh, watch the cord. There you go. Do you have any questions on that? Okay. Ouch. Okay. So number 4 is the same thing. It's just the numbers are a little nastier. So again, amplitude and period. So if there's no number in front, stick a 1. So then the amplitude is just 1. Whatever appears between the sign and the x, that is your b value. Your b value is not your period. We're going to plunk that b value into my formula. So period equals 2 pi over b. My b value is 2 pi. If you punch that into your calculator, you'll get out 1. Macy, do you want to just pull that across? Yeah. So what does that mean? So if we put those two pieces of information together, go up, down, up. So the amplitude is 1. So that means you're going to go up to 1 and down to 1. The period is also 1. So it goes from 0 to 1. That's how those two numbers get translated to your graph. What we're looking for is left, right, bottom, top. When I say left, right, bottom, top, two things should twig in your brain: domain and range. Okay. Okay, so if we look at the other one, so again, this is the A value, this is the B value. So the A value is the amplitude. The B value is not the period. We use the B value to find the period. Now, just a note with this, we haven't dealt with this for quite a while. On your calculator, when you are dividing by a fraction, you must insert brackets around that fraction. What's extremely frustrating at this stage of the game is you have all the theory in your brain and then you screw up circling B when you should have circled C because you plugged it into your calculator wrong. So if we go 2 pi divided by, and then in brackets, pi over 4. We get out 8. So again, what does that mean? So draw your little wave in. So up, down, up. So the amplitude is 0.1. So it goes up to 0.1 and down to 0.1, or negative 0.1. The period is 8, so it starts at 0 and finishes at 8. Okay, how is the diploma going to screw with your head? This is what they're going to do. Instead of having it go from 0 to 8, they're going to have it go from 0 to pi over 4. Okay, so they're going to see if you remember that the B value is not the period. The B value is used to calculate the period. Okay, so that is the most common mistake. So here, instead of going from 0 to 1, kids will have it go from 0 to 2 pi. So they'll forget that the B value is not the ending point. Okay. Okay, so the last type of question is if I give you a graph and ask you for the equation of it back. So this is number 6. Okay, so again, anything I have skipped, you're going to skip. So we are going to do all 4. Okay, just watch the cord. So we are going to do all 4 of them, but it's the same thing. We're going to find the equation of this thing. So we're going to find the number in front, and we're going to find the number there. So the A value and the B value. Okay, dive in. Okay, what's the amplitude? How far up, how far down? 4. Now, guys, sometimes just knowing that is enough to take out 2 of the 4 choices, right? And a 1 and 2 is better than a 1 and 4. Okay, here's where she gets tricky. We have to find the B value this time. So we have to take that little formula. So this formula right here, period equals 2 pi over B. We're going to take that and we're going to swap these 2 things around. So we're going to go shoop, like that. So instead of it being 2 pi over B, we're going to write 2 pi over period. We're going to go shoop and switch those around. Okay, period, remember, is the length of one pattern. So the graph starts at 0, goes up, down, up. How long is one pattern? 4 pi. So you're going to just go 2 pi divided by 4 pi. Now at this point, you should now look, if you want to plug this into your calculator, go for it. Or just turn your brain on for 4.5 millimeters of a second. Pi's cancel out. What's 2 divided by 4? 0.5. Or you could leave it as 2 over 4 if you really want to be annoying. Okay? Technically, that is the correct answer. So if you didn't reduce it down, technically you have done the question right. Here's the thing though, the diploma is a stickler for reducing fractions. So they will never write the answer as 2 pi over 4 pi. They will always reduce it down to 0.5. So again, you can just go 2 pi divided by 4 pi. And oh, when I'm dividing here, you have to put brackets around that. So you have to go 2 pi divided by 4 pi. There you go. If you're running the TID4, do you know about your shortcut fraction button? So if you go alpha y equals and pick number 1, then you don't have to worry about brackets. You can just go 2 pi over 4 pi, and you get out 1/2. Okay? So, but this is only available on the 84. It's not available on the 83. Okay, and that's that one done. Now again, this is the right answer. The wrong answer that will appear on the diploma is that kids will accidentally put the period here instead of the B value here. Okay, so period and B are not the same thing, but you have to use one to get the other. That's the key. You got to use one to get the other. Okay, let's do 3 more. Okay, now remember, you only want to look at one pattern. One pattern. So this picture gave you two patterns. So I only care about that. I do not care about that. I only care about one pattern. So this is called A, this is called B. A is the amplitude. So it goes up to 5, down 5, so the amplitude is 5. To find B, we go 2 pi over period. The period is the length of one pattern. The pattern has a length of 12. So for the correct answer, you can write 2 pi over 12. That's one option. The next option is to write it as a decimal, so 0.52. Okay. The third option is to look at that 2 over 12, just that 2 over 12, and reduce it down. So go 2 over 12 math 1, and you get 1/6, and then you just stick the pi back in. So the answer could be written as 5 sine 2 pi over 12x, 5 sine 0.52x, 5 sine 1 pi over 6x. They're all right. You do you. Okay. Most 30-2s write 0.52. They punch it into their calculator, which I'm fine with. Okay, that's what most of the diplomas are. Now, the most obvious mistake kids make is they use the 24. They use the entire picture instead of just using one pattern. Okay, so this one's a little harder because they didn't give you the ending point, but they gave you the scale so that you can figure it out. So we can see that it goes up to 15 and down to 15. So you know it's going to be 15 sine. So if this is at 10, and this is at 30, that must mean this was 20 and this was 40. So the B value is 2 pi over 40. So you can put that in there. That's perfectly fine. Or you can write 0.16. Or you can write it as 1 over 20 with a pi symbol. What that pi thing is, for those of you that weren't here last week, there's two ways to show angles, degrees and radians. It's like saying a fraction and a decimal. There are two ways of showing a number, like 1 over 2 and 0.5, right? They mean the same thing, it's just two different ways of showing it. That pi symbol is actually representing something that we have in degrees. You guys are used to degrees, right? This is 90 degrees, this is 180 degrees, that is 360 degrees, right? You're used to thinking of degrees. Well, in grade 12, we want you thinking of something called radians. The problem is in 30-2, they don't actually explain to you what a radian is. You just have to know that, just write it down. Essentially, the gist is that 2 pi is the exact same thing as saying 360 degrees. That's all you need to know. Just like 1/2 is the exact same thing as saying 0.5, 360 degrees is the exact same thing as saying 2 pi. And if you're like, why? I don't want to explain it to you. We are too invested in this course now for me to be backtracking. Okay, just smile and nod and use the formulas on your formula sheet. Okay. Okay, hardest type of question we're going to huck at you with this concept. Okay, in order to do this question, you need to be able to see the full wave. They did not give you the full wave. They only gave you half of it. So you need to be able to, you need to extend your picture out so that you see the full wave, because that is your period. So it goes up to 6. You're told it goes down to -6. So the amplitude is easy. The amplitude is just 6. Okay. Stick a 1 in. Let's just ignore the pi. In math, if you see something on your page and you're not sure how to deal with it, just kind of ignore it or focus on what you do know. You should see this as 1/2. What number do you get when you double a half? 1. Like if this takes a half, this will take another half. And then all you have to do is just stick the pi symbol back on. The pi is there for this whole radian thing. It means nothing to you. It's just that when we have radians, we always stick a pi on whatever number we're dealing with. That's like totally not right, but for your purposes, that's all you need to know. Just focus on the number and then stick the pi on the end. It'll work. Okay? So to find the b value, we're going to go 2 pi divided by period. Our period is 1 pi. Now again, if you punch that into your calculator, you will end up with the number 2. If you don't punch it into the calculator because you realize that the pi's cancel off, you still end up with the number 2. Okay? Every diploma has one of these. It will either be a multiple choice or long answer. So they'll either give you 4 equations, A, B, C, D, or on the long answer, they'll give you a picture of a sine curve and they'll say, find me the equation, show your steps. Or they'll actually say justify. Justify is a fancy way of saying show your work. Okay. Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are all from this one picture. Okay, so it's all from this one little diagram. So what they've done here is they have used the graphing calculator to graph this. We are not going to use the graphing calculator. Okay, we're just going to guess this thing, not guess it, but go from the details. So you're told that the graph has a maximum of 250 and a minimum of -250. So that means, so here's your XY axis. So the graph is going up to 250 and down to 250. So we know then that the amplitude is 250. Okay. Now again, if you remember, she said the amplitude has to be positive because it's a distance. If you remember me telling you that, amplitude must be positive. If you remember me saying that, you can eliminate B and D, and now you're down to a 1 and 2 shot. So even if you don't remember how to calculate the number, but you remember that it's positive, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Okay? Okay, so the period, all right. Start at 0, 0. Okay, just look up here instead of trying to copy, just look and then copy it down. There's one pattern. Yes? There's 2 patterns. There's 3 patterns. Do you see that? 3 patterns. You're told right here that your X max is 6.28. So to figure out the period, you were able to fit in 3 patterns in 6.28. So you're going to go 6.28 divided by 3, and you'll get out 2.09. Okay, we don't need to do number 9. Come back from your break, watch the cord as you're walking out. We will finish up number 11 and then go through anything else that you have questions on. Okay. Okay. So the last question I want to do with you, so we're not going to do number 9. We're not going to do number 10. We just have to do number 11. Okay. So again, when we're doing numeric response, you always start on the left side, and if you have blank squares, they're going to appear on the right. Okay, so we always start on the left and may or may not use up all 4 squares. So it says to the nearest whole number, so again, no decimals, the value of b in the equation. Okay, so we know what the amplitude is. We know the amplitude is 250. So we know we've got y equals 250 sine something bx. So we know our period is 2.09, right? So we know, oops, so we've got b equals 2 pi over period. We know our period is 2.09. So you're just going to punch that into your calculator. You're just going to go 2 pi divided by 2.09. So round that to the nearest whole number, and that would be 3. Okay. So again, this is the only square that you fill in. You do not fill in any of the others. Okay, you always start on the left and leave blank squares to the right. Okay, how you feel? Is that decent from what we did last week, kind of bringing it all together in a nutshell? Okay, so we only have one tiny thing left to add to this. I'm going to start it. We'll go for about 15 minutes, and then that way tomorrow's lesson won't feel nearly as dreadful. So I am going to just unhook this for half a second, and then we'll go from there.